Welcome to Time to Shine. I'm Tristan Kerwin, and I am a creative marketing strategist at Generate Sales and Marketing.
And I'm Lisa Fronick. I am the owner at Generate Sales and Marketing. Generate is the most creative, fun promo company you're ever going to find.
Oh, I absolutely love that and think we need to tagline that somehow.
Okay.
While we're the most creative promotional marketing firm you'll ever find, Time to Shine is our, well, I'll say mostly weekly production where we talk about innovative ideas, latest product trends, and it's really Lisa and I's time to connect with all of you and bring you bright ideas.
That's right. Our goal is to show you some of those great trending products, give you some of the best
Yep.
strategies in the promo industry, really make your promo not only shine, but return some ROI to you.
So, speaking of ROI, let's get into today's episode and mostly stay on track and in line with what we've planned. So,
Okay, good luck with that.
I know. Good luck. Cheers. So today is our second episode of our four-part event marketing series. Last week we talked about essentially picking the right events, making sure you're coming into the whole event planning strategy with a goal or objective you're trying to accomplish, and also right away scheduling your follow-up after that event.
Right.
So this week, we're going to dive into what I feel like is both of our favorite topics, and that's how to make your booth a destination. And that requires a little bit of pre-planning. And one cool thing about this episode today is that we've actually linked a worksheet you can use or an interactive tool you can use to help with your overall engagement strategy at your booth. And when in doubt, just call Generate because our ideas are always free.
Right.
We make our money on our products. So
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
so worst case scenario, just call us. We'll do it for you and we'll have some fun. So let's go ahead and kick it off. And Lisa, what strategies do you like to use to make our events or our booths at events a destination for people attending those events?
So, and I don't know how much we touched on this on the last video, right? Because
Okay.
they're all a blur by the time we're done. But one of the things is to reach out even ahead of the event. So if
Yep.
you have a mailing list, if you have a newsletter, let people know where you're going to be. Tease the things that you're doing that day at the event because you've already got that planned, right? So tease that a little bit. Tease people, let them know we're going to be here. We're going to be giving away this. We're going to have this with us. We're having a contest with this, or we're highlighting or showcasing that. Let them know, get them excited, invite them to come and see you. You can even do something like a bring this email with you to receive kind
Ooh, I
of
like
thing.
that.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
get
I
them to
like
bring
that.
more people. If it's a large event that is not,
Yep.
say, very specifically industry related um or terribly niche,
Yeah.
ask them, bring your friends, bring your neighbors. If you bring extra people in, you get even more kind of a thing. So,
Yeah.
really highlight it and tease it that way. Get that traffic excited and coming even before the event.
Yeah.
And if there's an opportunity to do so, especially if it's, I don't know that there's a technical word for it. Maybe somebody can share this word if they're out there and they know. But if it's what I'm going to call an enclosed event or an
Okay.
encapsulated event, where, maybe it is a smaller group, maybe it is people who are going to be sitting down for a luncheon or so on, see if you can't sponsor something or if you're maybe allowed to put something at each table setting, in each
Yep.
bag, on each badge, something that
Yeah.
draws them to your booth.
Yeah, so that's really like your invite only events, right? Where it's a very specific group of people, maybe in a very specific industry. Associations would be a good example of a time
Sure.
that would
Yep.
be. But yeah, I really like that idea because it gives you an opportunity to stand out in a different way than maybe other folks that are there, and also help support the host of the event because it's
Right.
something extra, right?
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
That overall engagement at the event helps everybody, gets
Yep.
everybody excited, makes the event look like a great event, makes people want to come back the next year. I'm like, remember that great event that we went to where we got to do this and we got to
Yeah.
play with that? And, we've been at, no kidding, two of our events so far this year, and it's killing me, had puppies. Like there were puppies. And you could adopt the puppies. I didn't. I managed to come home from both without a puppy. But like both of those events had puppies and they had lines for people to
Yep.
just sit down for a minute just to play with a puppy. And it's a lot of work and, but what a great way to partner with a rescue or, put a
Yep.
mission into to what you're doing. If your company's not a mission already, put a mission in place. And if you're passionate about puppies like I am, let's, get some puppies to the event, help the rescues or kittens if that's more your jam, or I don't know,
Whatever
gophers,
it is.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so let's say people don't have the promotional budget for puppies, but
Okay.
they
All
have the
right. You
promotional
shouldn't
budget
need a
for
budget for puppies. They're rescues, puppies are free.
right, right. Well, like the feeding and the
Right.
things you
Well,
got to do to
right,
care
right,
for
right.
them,
Yeah.
living and
Yeah.
breathing creatures.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's say we don't have puppies. Still a
Okay.
good
No
idea.
puppies.
I love that. How do we use promotional items in an overall like booth engagement strategy to make your booth a destination? What are some of your favorite strategies or practices or approaches with like budget and those kinds of things in mind?
Right. Okay. So first of all, it doesn't have to be promotional. So let's be
Okay.
fair.
Okay.
You
Okay.
could, in fact, give away a TV or make a basket. It's a great time to maybe partner with some other community members,
Yep.
some other businesses, promote them a little bit at your booth, do a little co-branding, what we like to call piggyback marketing, promote another company by highlighting them at your booth, baked goods, things like that. And, it's second only to puppies that we're going to do stuff for food as well and sweet snacks. So it doesn't have
Yep.
to be promotional, although I would obviously highly encourage you to include a promotional element. So if
Okay.
you're doing some sort of a basket, think about some of those items you can brand that could go with that basket. So say you are doing cookies. What about a branded spatula or an oven mitt
Ooh,
or
yeah.
something like that that you can put in that basket? So the basket
Yep.
itself is branded. The other idea is to utilize a branded vessel. So a tote bag or our favorite
Yep.
utility totes. So have that outer shell branded, even if everything that's in it highlights, perhaps other people that are exhibiting at that event, highlight some
Yep.
of their things, what have you. So it doesn't have to be full on promotional. It
Okay.
certainly can be.
Yeah.
One of the big changes in the promo industry in the last 10, 15 years since I first started in it is that we used to be, pens and rulers and you know, things of that nature, the true swag items that people think of.
Yep.
Now we're Yeti and Stanley and, all of these other name brands that we can
Yeah.
get great bags, and so on in all these name brands. So it can also be a name brand item that can be your chief giveaway. And those items, when we're putting your brand on those, a lot of times the minimums are very small. So they're
Right.
one piece, they're five pieces there. So
Yep.
you're not buying tons of them. And you can afford to get five really nice, say, Tumi bags that are on the
Yep.
definite, like that's the way upper end, right? But you can afford to get five of those. And that's all of your events over the years are covered with what you're giving away. And you can use the same strategy as long
Yep.
as the people you're marketing to are going to vary, and that there's good turnover at the people who are going to be at these events. Obviously, don't want to do the same thing at the event if it's going to be the same people at every event.
Right. Well, and you just brought
Which,
up a
by the
good
way, why would you do that many events that
right.
are all the same people? But
Right, for sure. But you did bring up a really good point though, is like pick a strategy that you can recycle maybe a couple of
mhm.
times
Yep,
so that you're not always having to recreate the wheel because that takes, time, energy, dollars. Why not create a strategy that you've kind of tried and true, right?
right.
And one of the strategies that I would really like to chat with you about today is something that's kind of tried and true for us. And we've recycled it a couple of times in different ways over the years, right? Bringing in a different promotional item to use or bringing in a different giveaway to use. So the first thing you had mentioned was number one, have a reason for people to come to your booth, right?
Yep.
And so a couple of the ideas you threw out were around the ideas of like a raffle or some sort of giveaway that they could enter to win, right? So in
Right.
theory, they have to give you their contact information or what have you, but when they arrive at the booth in order to do that. But for us, let's walk viewers through like our quick draw process.
Okay.
Because of course we're a promotional marketing company, so we integrate promotional products really throughout the whole process.
Right.
But I think it demonstrates something that any company in any industry could implement,
Okay.
right?
So let's go back a few years and talk about
Okay.
the very first time that we did this.
Okay. Yes.
So I'm gonna kind of go back to some of the other points we've talked about
Yep.
even in the other videos. So first of all, know your audience, right?
Yep.
So the first time that we did this particular strategy was at a women's event. It was a fabulous women's event. It used to be put on by Lakeshore Public Television every year. Northwest Indiana Influential Businesswomen is now doing a similar event. So I'm going to plug that
Okay.
really
Yeah.
quick. That'll be held again next, like late next fall. But it was all women. It was all professional women. So we did an amazing, it was just a little business card wallet, just a simple
Yep.
little leather business card wallet, subtle branding. Our logo was just debossed on it, so it wasn't in your face. I still will run into women every now and then who go, I still have your little, and they still
Oh
have
gosh,
them.
I love it.
So because it was a business card wallet, it was easy for us to tuck a card in each of those so
Yep.
that when they drew it out of the basket, they could see what they won.
Yep.
And that was in your first lifetime with Generate. And so you were there for this, right?
Yeah.
We had literally had women dragging other women to our booth during
Yep.
those, and they were small breaks in between the sessions. We had people dragging other people to our booth. We had our
Yep.
gifts that we were giving away were some amazing like fashion bags that were branded, but they again subtly and they matched the credit card wallet or the
Very
little card.
retail. Like I think that's a good way to very retail looking.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's when that was kind of first starting to gain
Yep.
ground in the industry, right? So I mean, once again, cutting edge. We were right there.
Come on.
But
Yeah.
it was really great. So we had people dragging people over. You got to see, and we did have one like mega gift in there, which was like a substantially sized Amazon gift card, that had actually been something we won from one of our vendors that we were able to recycle, which was cool. So things like that work out very, very well. But you want that draw. You want people to be so excited about what they just did at your booth that they're telling everyone else, right?
Well,
So
so yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing to like really highlight though is when people came up, we didn't just like, okay, I'm going to use this phrase, let them,
right,
let
right.
them,
We weren't
pull the
just
business.
giving it away.
We weren't just giving it away. We were like, hey, here, here's who we are. Here's what we're doing. Like 15 seconds, right? Hi, I'm
Right.
Tristan. And then we said, here's what we're doing today. Before you draw, what I need is I need a business card or I need you to fill this out. Right.
Right.
Because we were there with a very specific goal in mind is to generate new leads that we could later follow up on.
Exactly.
So
And there's
that's,
a million
yep.
ways of doing that. There's
Yeah.
apps now, there's
So many.
tablets, there's, so many different ways
Yep.
that you can do that. But yeah, you're not just giving it away. How many times have we said that over the year? Freebies aren't free, right?
Yep.
You need to be getting something in return for that. And the opposite example is we were at an event once where
Oh,
like
no.
literally the people did not even man their booth. They just laid a bunch of like items out on their booth for people to
Yeah.
walk up and take. They
Oh my
weren't
gosh.
even there. And even though we're mostly all adults, and you would think this would have been okay at this business to business event.
Yeah.
Like literally, it was no different than putting the bowl of candy out on your
Oh,
porch at
no.
Halloween. Like the first like 12 people, somebody took like half their stuff and it was just gone, you know, and there's no way you're getting business from that. So yeah, you
No.
need to engage and you need to have something going on in your booth that's going to engage. So the quick draw items, most of your items can be just small, simple things. It can be a pen. They're already getting in most cases whatever that draw item is. So,
Yep.
we've used the wallets, we've used rubber ducks, we've used little mini notebooks. There's a million different things that you can do. We've used lip balms. That was a good one. The lip balms with the variable data. Remember that where they can
Yep,
check their
I
number?
do. It's funny. I actually have a lip balm right here,
Oh,
right?
there you go.
And that was one of the ideas I was thinking about as well as I was preparing for the event. But you meant, or preparing for us filming this. But one thing you mentioned were pens. And an idea that I came up with is if you have a logo or branding that uses like multiple colors, you should totally order pens in several different colors, right? So generate, we have at least 4 different colors at any given time when
Right.
Lisa decides to rebrand.
That's right. I love it.
But what's really nice about items is that if it comes in multiple colors, you just put the same color logo on the item, order multiple colors, right? And what you do is the quick draw is they get like associate the color with a gift, right? So
Sure.
let's say you order a red, a blue, a green, and a yellow pen. Don't those aren't great colors, but I'll get
No,
into
but
that in
it,
a
no,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
I get
We'll
where
just
you're
like
going though.
go with
Yeah.
go with the rainbow. Let's say they pull a red pen. Oh, sorry, like that didn't qualify for you for anything.
Wah,
But they pull
wah.
a green pen, right?
Yeah.
Green means go, and they want an Owala style tumbler. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how cool is that?
Yeah.
But what's and then that way, one, you still have your pens, so you can use them in a wide variety of ways later on.
Right.
But it creates that interaction, even something as simple
Right.
as a pen. So that kind of highlights different budget, budget categories you can do. You can
Right.
still participate even if you don't have a huge marketing
Right.
budget.
Absolutely. And it's another one of those things too, where, and we recommend this in all kinds of promo marketing. So it's not
Yep.
just events, it's also in your everyday outreach and everything, employee engagement, everything. We recommend having at least 3 levels of promo. You've got your inexpensive level, which, years ago would have been under $1. Now we're going to say under 2, right?
Yeah, there's
Because
not much under $1.
yeah, costs go up and you want something that people
Yeah.
are actually going to use. But there are some good, like even Post-it notes, pens
Yeah.
at 30, 40 cents that, those are those low ends.
Yep.
So you need plenty of those. Those are what we tend to refer to as spam items, things you
Yep.
can give out in droves and it's not a huge hit to the budget. And it's just kind of putting your brand out there. It's just sort of something everybody gets, right? Which is
Yep.
technically what swag means, something everyone gets. Or something we all get technically.
I don't know what it's like.
So
swag.
you're right. You're like, yeah, that's not, yeah, something we all get. So then you have your next level, which are those like, let's call it 5 to 8. And obviously this is going to vary with the size of your
Yep.
business. So 5 to 8 for one business might be 10 to 20 for another. And then your high-end gift, which wherever that caps out for your company, that's the one that you're probably only giving 1, maybe 2 of those away at an event. That mid-range, hopefully, if it's a well-targeted event, you're giving away a few more.
Yeah.
And it could be random, or you could find a way to target it, right? To make sure that
We
the
don't do
people,
that.
yeah, sure. Well, I don't mean cheating. I'm not saying we haven't done that. But for those mid-level gifts, not that big gift, that,
Yeah.
yeah. But for those mid-level gifts, you could have a way of qualifying that. So think about that too. Can you ask a couple qualifying questions? And with those questions, they go to the next level.
Yeah. So
Right.
for us, I have to take like a minute to product place, just like
Yeah.
a moment. So you were talking about tiered gifts, right? So you have your pens, your notebooks, your little stuff or your stickies, and then you have your mid-level gift. And I think for us right now, I don't know, you might kill me for saying this. Our mid-level gift right now are these beautiful disc
Oh,
journals.
yeah. Yeah.
And
She says as I'm drinking out of the
I
matching
know,
mug. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I absolutely, absolutely love this. And it comes in, I think, 3 or 4 different sizes or like variations. But the
Right.
fact that you can put full color on here, you can customize your discs, and people can order refills like
can.
on Amazon
Yeah.
or even through us. But
Right.
absolutely love these. These are going really, really well.
Those are going
And for
really
some
well.
companies, this might be the thing that you only give out one of, right?
Right.
But for us, we're in promo marketing. So we have a different kind of
We have
clientele.
a-
So
yeah,
this is
our budget
mid-level.
on promo is a little different from your average client, right?
Average Joe.
And
yeah.
we should throw it out there that if we get some nice comments on this
Yes.
video and some nice engagement, some nice shares on the video, maybe we can work something out where they can get one of those. And we did custom pages for those that are
Yep.
actually project planning sheets. So
Yep.
good way to kind of get them started on planning their next event and promo projects. So.
Yep. Absolutely. So far we've talked about one, having an overall strategy that's going to attract people to your booth.
Right.
So one of the ideas that we talked about was a quick draw, right? And then integrating tiered gifts. Are there any other strategies that like you're really loving right now?
Yeah,
that you like to
absolutely.
use?
I think, and this is sort of a generational shift a little bit,
Okay.
so when you used to be my pet millennial because you were, now we have all these other generations we have to deal with, and
Lots of
but
letters. Yeah.
so millennials started with the idea of experiences, and
Yeah.
that's continued to grow, right? So experiences are a big thing. If you are a hospice or a memory care facility, what if instead of at your booth, you're not focusing on giveaways, right? Because
Right.
it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
We're certainly not celebrating this idea, although maybe we should be.
Okay.
So what about having something at your table, something at your area at the event, instead of just putting a table out, where people can come in and create a memory book?
I
Um,
love that.
maybe
Yeah.
they can sit down for a minute and you can coach them through some steps on writing out questions that you want to ask your loved ones now,
Ooh, that's a good
and
one.
the gift can be a pretty journal
Yeah.
that they can take home that now has these questions that they wrote out. Now,
Yep.
so again, to go back, you just did the disc journals, but a pretty custom journal,
Yep.
where they can write some of this down, write down some of these questions, create a memory with their loved one. And now, again, if you're a memory care facility or an assisted living facility,
Yeah.
and this is what you're doing on your booth, the people that are coming and interacting and sitting down to do that with you are already your target market.
Yeah.
So you're working with them, you're branding with that, you're getting your brand in front of them and you're demonstrating to them, this is the kind of care and partnership and loving environment we're creating at our facilities as well.
Yeah. You're able to really demonstrate your culture like right away and then
Right,
also provide value to the
right.
event too.
On a happier note, if you're a cookie shop, right?
Yep.
Do something there where they're creating a no-bake cookie at your booth.
Oh, how
You know,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, or something, something like that. So anything with the food, do
Yep.
something food related. If it's an outdoor event, I don't know how logistically how easy it would be to have a little pizza oven or something out there, but have them make their own little pizza or something
Yeah.
like that. There's probably like health inspectors right now that are going, no, you can't do
Don't
that.
do that. Yeah.
But but find something that people can do
Yep. An
to,
activity of some
right.
kind.
And if you're like me and you're terrible at baking, just even that little experience is going to go, no, it's way easier just to buy it from them. Right. So
That's so
you're
funny.
going to get me to be a client because I'm going like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not eating my own stuff I just made. I'm coming to you. Right.
Yeah. I love
So
that.
think of things that you can create as memories.
Yep.
We've got one of our favorite partners because we are such coffee girls. We do Brewmate brand, and Brewmate's got some really great, and there are also some great ones that are not name brands, a little bit less expensive, like pour over coffee things.
Yep.
If you're a coffee shop, have people try a couple different coffees and then make their own pour over. Is there a difference? Do they taste the difference?
Yep.
Whatever that might look at, create an experience.
Well, and then during the experience, that's really where they get to know you.
Right.
You can take a couple of moments to get to know them, right? Like, so
Right.
how do you further cultivate that lead or how
Right.
do you warm up that lead? Because if they're with you for a couple of moments, it gives you a couple of moments to share, oh, this is what we do,
Yeah.
and to see if they are someone you need to follow up with later
Right.
on.
Right. And
So, yeah.
so this is a good time to point out too. So we've talked about things as heavy and serious as memory care
Yep.
and as frivolous and silly as cookies and puppies, right? And the companies that we deal with are everywhere in between.
Between. Yep.
So it's a good time to point out that like this kind of rapid fire ideas and ideation that we do together is the kind of thing that we love when we sit down with a client. Tell us what you have coming up. Tell us who you are and let us just have I think that any of our clients would tell you that we are exactly like this in a meeting, which,
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
sad for them. Good luck getting words in, but we do try to listen as well. But let us throw out those rapid fire ideas, and some are going to be horrible, and some there's going to be
They're gonna
reasons
stick.
why in your industry, like the pizza making at a booth, you're not
Yep.
going to be allowed to do. Right. But let us get some ideas out there and let's see, what of those ideas can you actually utilize in your
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
and on your budget and, so on. But let us help you make it fit what you're doing in your outreach.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So we're gonna switch gears just a little bit because I
Okay,
want to
I'm
make
ready.
sure that we kind of honor what we said we were gonna do to our with our viewers today. So the last thing I wanted to chit chat about, and then I'll circle back and ask you that question where it's like, hey, did we forget anything? Any
Right,
other tidbits? But the last thing I wanted to chat about was overall booth design, right? So
right.
where we're at in the process is we've picked the event, we have the goal, we've scheduled our follow up. If you haven't scheduled your follow up yet, go schedule your follow up. That way
Watch the
it was
first
worth your
video.
time,
It'll, yeah.
right? Come on, do the thing, watch the first video. And then we've created an overall engagement plan, or we've thrown out some ideas together today about an overall engagement plan at the event. So lots of different ideas actually were thrown out. So, how do you go about designing your booth space in a way that number one, continues that engagement, but
Right.
also number two is like timeless so that you can switch up your strategy every once in a
Yep.
while because it's one thing to invest in promotional items. It's another thing for a company to invest in the overall booth space because it's a little bit
Right.
of a higher price point,
It can
right?
be. Yeah, it can be.
So how do you, what are some best practices you like to follow when we're assisting clients creating their overall booth space?
The big thing is, unless you're limited by your corporate office and you have to just have a simple table with a simple table skirt, get creative with this because again, the idea is about engagement and inviting people in. So get creative. If you can, buy two booth spaces or ask for a corner space. Don't be afraid to ask the people setting up the event. They should want you to be successful at the event. So, ask them ahead of time, is there any way we can get a corner space? Is there any way we can have a little more room? No one is coming to your booth if it's a couple people on their phones sitting behind a booth. It's just not going
No,
to
because
happen.
it's not engaging, right?
Right.
Yeah.
If possible, be in front of your table, not behind it.
Yep.
Be standing, not sitting. If it's even more possible, do things in excess of just having a table.
Okay.
Again, think about what's relative for your business. Do I need to sit down with a couple people? Do I need me over here and you over here? Do we need to be doing more like appointment
Yeah.
setting? Do we need to display product? Do we need room for people to kind of flow through? Think of the flow
Yep.
through to draw their item and then step over here to see what they won and then step over here to talk to us a little bit more if there's something specific. What
Yeah.
does that look like?
So
Right?
maybe even like a mini rehearsal, right? Get together with whoever's
Yeah,
working the
absolutely.
event,
Yeah.
talk about it, plan it
Yep.
out.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can get expensive with your booth setup, and of course we can help
Yep.
you with that. We can sell those
Happy
items
to.
as well. Yeah, very happy to help you do custom booth setup at 5 to 10 grand. Sure, anytime.
Yeah.
Having said that, it's nice, and with
Yeah.
some events, it's in keeping with that event. So if you're a
Yep.
larger industry, you need to kind of match. And I don't mean match, right? Because we don't want to look
Yeah.
like everybody else,
But
but
elevate too.
but you need to
Yeah.
elevate to where they are. So how can we do that and still help you stand out? But think about that flow. Think about that. And if you're doing something like the memory care idea, maybe it's a couple of just comfortable little chairs with little side tables that, yeah.
I like that. We're gonna
We
have to
didn't
pitch
eat,
this idea to someone.
and I have.
Oh, you
So
have.
yeah, it was an
Okay.
idea that came up when we were working with the hospice a number of years ago, and they did end up doing the journals. They didn't do it at an event. It was not an
Yeah.
event-based meeting, but
Yeah.
they did do some journals, and it got a very good response.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's a
yeah,
good one. That's a really
yeah,
good one. Even if that was the event, right? If they're doing an open house or something like that, but not to deter us, not to deter us.
right,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
So,
No, yeah. So I think that you need to be thoughtful about your space and how you're
yep.
setting it up, and you don't need to be
Yeah.
expensive. On that note, we've got some really awesome signs that have face cutouts. So you can create a
Yes.
sign where somebody's taking a picture with.
Yep.
We did a number of events a few years ago with our chamber that were baseball themed.
Yep.
So our expense was a $15 grass carpet from Costco and,
Right.
cutout signs where people could do pictures.
Yep.
And, then we made them listen to our pitch in order to get the
Yep.
pictures. And, it was an easy way to get in front of them.
Well, and what's really cool about that is like with your booth space, you automatically incorporated your activity or your engagement moment.
Right.
And I love that. We even have like Instagram cutout cards where people hold it, you know,
Right.
photo shoots, photo
Right.
booth style. And then what's really cool about that is people will then post those on social media.
Yep. Yep.
And that's how you can connect with them later
Right.
on, which is really cool.
One thing we haven't talked about, and I know you were going to circle back to what's the one thing that we didn't get to. So
Yeah.
here's one thing we didn't get to. I'll preempt you on that. And
One
go
of us
straight there.
remembered.
Right. What we didn't get to was we haven't talked about connecting your events to
Yep.
one another, or connecting where we're at here to what's coming next. So
Yeah.
let's say that you're at an event, you've got your booth set up, and you are a coffee shop or an ice cream shop or something like that.
Mhm.
Talk to them about what's going on at your brick and mortar on the
Yeah.
other side of this. So you're a coffee shop. You are doing what you're doing at the booth, and you're handing out a postcard that says, bring this to our location before this date. Put a cap to it.
Yeah, generate action. Yeah.
Exactly. Bring that, generate. Thanks for the plug. Bring this to our location before this date. And you also receive. It could be a coupon. It could be another free gift. It could be whatever. Bring a friend and you both receive, right? Or limit 2, limit 4, however you want to do that. So bring people to that next thing. If you're a food truck and you're at one event, tell them where you're going to be next. You know, have a way to follow up. We won't talk about the tragedy when I didn't get my ice cream sandwich at that one event, and I don't know if that truck's still around, but
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think
long
you're
time
setting
ago.
me up because we have something coming up next. So
We do.
as we go into the third episode next week, after that, are we hosting anything extra to kind of like bridge with this topic?
Yeah, we will be. So we knew that we couldn't talk about day of setting and all of this without getting into the whole idea of gamifying, right?
Yeah.
And we'll mention gamifying a little bit later in the
Yep.
in the next video, right? We'll do that in, what are we, number 3?
Next week will be number 3. We're only
Number
in number
3.
2. Yeah.
All right. So we'll talk about gamify a little bit more in number 3, but we're actually planning a full-on webinar for how to gamify your promo. We were able to present this topic at a recent event that we did, went over great. Everybody loved it. We had fun. So we want to do an actual full-on webinar so we can get it a little bit more interactive, a little bit more creative in that regard, and teach people how to come up with some of these strategies on their own. So some of what we've talked about today could definitely be considered gamify to some degree, even though it's obviously not lighthearted and fun. Even the memory bookmaker is a way to technically to gamify your promo. It's just a little bit more of a serious game, right? So for those of us who are competitive, they're all serious games. But yeah, so we're talking about doing a webinar. I'm thinking probably May, June, right?
Yeah.
On how to gamify your program, your promo. We're trying to do it prior to June when everybody's getting into their busy event seasons.
Yeah, all of that. And that'll be live, which will be really fun because then that allows us to interact with our audience and do that kind of thing. So we'll be sure to send out those invitations and open up registration for that, you know, in the next several weeks. But
so if you happen to see this video before, like, you know, May of 2025, you're going to want to be sure you're following us on social, receiving our newsletters, all of that. Reach out, make sure we have you on the list so that you can get advance notice on that webinar. So
yeah, absolutely. So in summary, create an engaging and impactful moment at your booth so that you can drive your ROI later on. This way, also your employees or anyone who's working your booth, they have a purpose for being there, which that's also, of course, going to help drive the ROI. So,
and I think we need to talk more about that in the next video as well. So aside from teasing gamify a little bit more, talking about that a little bit more, you know, you have to have staff engagement again. And I've said this earlier in the recording. The last thing anyone wants is your staff sitting there behind a table playing on their phones while people are walking by. And we've seen it. We've seen it at multiple events. Everybody's seen it. That's wasted money. You might as well not even be there. To be a mid-size brand and think that just being there is getting your name out in the community, it's just simply not true in today's marketplace. You're just not. So you need that engagement. You're looking for, you know, good solid leads, not random, you know, community presence. If you're good, right? So that's not what we're looking for. So you need to have that plan and you need staff engaged to execute that plan properly. So let's also talk about how to do that in the next video and get staff
Okay.
engaged in the process.
I love it. So we'll see you guys again next week. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Tristan, and that was Lisa. Thanks so much. Bye.